All right, guys. Hello, MJ.
Hello, Trey.
Hello, Mr. Crowley. We are going 3 deep for the Beyond the Curve. The MX podcast goes off road, off track, and who the hell knows where we will go this evening. But this is episode 45.5. The youngin has to get up early, so we're going to allow him to go first. And if he disappears midway through, it's only because he has to go to work in the morning. So he's got to sling tires and stuff. But we're going to talk about the Wild Boar GNCC Round 2 this weekend, held in Palatka, Florida at Hog Waller. The mud bog on Sunday lived up to its name. On Saturday, conditions were kind of perfect for a Florida GNCC. So we're going to go quads first. We're going to dive into the bikes. I have a quad racer. I have a sometimes motorcycle racer, and I am a has-been who never was. So we're going to talk about the track, the event, just the environment of the GNCC and how big it's gotten to go along with Daytona Supercross, which was this weekend, Arena Cross. And we already covered all that on the MX Beyond the Curve podcast. So, or Beyond the Curve, the MX podcast, dyslexia. So, MJ, we started off on Saturday with the quads. I went up to watch. The weather was adequate. Wasn't bad. A little overcast to start. Hog Waller, you always know kind of it's going to be sand whoops. They're going to find the mud holes. And this year they had, at the finish, just an exquisite mud section.
Yeah, so I think what ended up happening there, because when you come through on the first lap, there's not a single drop of mud. Well, there's some hoses that are right up along that fence line that I think people were washing their stuff off on and may have left them running or something along those lines. Because when you come around for the second lap, it is just completely, it was sunk. I know one of the guys I was talking to after the race, who races a 4x4 as well, he sunk his 4x4 in that. And
they had to get a tow truck to pull that out?
They had to get it winched out. They had to tie the winch to something else to use it as a pivot point to get him out because he was that buried in it.
That's crazy. And now, you guys, I think all the classes did it, even bikes and quads. Did you just, when you came through that mud section, did you guys just turn right instead of going to the finish and go straight?
Yeah, that's what you did on the first lap.
Okay. Because I was trying to figure out how it wasn't tied in. They just literally skipped.
Yeah. So that's what the straight, where you went straight and then you made a 90 to the left and then that would bypass it.
Yeah. Then, that's exactly how it was.
Okay. So we were trying to figure that out. They explained it on Sunday, and we thought, I don't see an alternative trail anywhere because we walked there was no alternative trail. So we were curious, but there was quite a few Florida racers. The Florida guys, it's their time to shine. The guys that are good in the sand. I don't know if there's any of the like the juniors or the micros, anybody worth mentioning. But for that 10 o'clock race, it's come down to Brandon Frazier and Landon Wolf.
Yeah.
And you're in that race as well. The WXC's in that race. And I honestly didn't see that mud section to start with. Were there any other mud sections out there?
So as deep as that section turned into, no. But there were quite a few towards the end of the lap, kind of right after we passed where you were at the Monster Mile. I think you said it was,
9.5?
Yeah, 9.5. You'd start, how you kind of come back around behind the finish line and go out towards parking and everything. That was pretty wet. And then obviously they run us through the mud holes over there by where we were parked at, which the first lap you come through, and this is where it probably would be smart to bike the track or walk certain sections before the races. You come through on the first lap, and I'm just kind of twiddling around them because I didn't know how deep they were. Well, then I just see somebody just go straight through it, and I'm like, oh, I guess it's not that deep. And so obviously you reroute, but nothing was as bad as that finish line section was right after the finish. Everything was pretty manageable. The only thing I noticed, and it wasn't even really the mud, it was just how wet everything got. And if you know much about the sand, once it starts to compact, it gets deep ruts in it in certain sections. And the amount of sport quads I had to push out because they were just blocking the trail So I just get behind them with my quad and just, use that 4x4 to kind of push them through.
I actually wanted to comment on that because I told Jason about that when we were over. There was a really sandy section where we were at in that 9.5 mile mark, and as long as you guys kept momentum, not you guys, the four, but the sport quads, as long as they kept momentum, they were fine. As soon as they paused, they were high. I want to say high centered.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
But some of them were able to get out. But for 45 minutes, Michelle and I basically probably helped out 10 quads. But the usefulness of the utility quad was they would just come up and they would either make a new line or they would just come up and put their bumper on and just push them. And I was like, there we go. Jason has an idea. Y'all should have to run little straps in the back, and you can push one and pull one at the same time. And you can get bonus points. Like if you stop to help somebody, you get like a bonus time added on for helping. And if you help two, you get like extra time. But let's dive in a little to your race. First race did not go well for you up in South Carolina, but we're in the sands of Florida. It's kind of home. You're used to this. How GNCC's been here. We were trying to figure out how many years it's been.
I think 2015 was the first year that we had come to Wildboard.
Yeah, that's about right.
So
it's been a while now.
It's, 9 years this year? Or 9 years? Next year will be 10?
Yeah, something like that.
So this is kind of your home race. Little trepidation. Hopefully the quad is back running well and the gremlins have been repaired. You got a 4th or 5th place start from where we were sitting from, and then you dove off in the woods and you were 6th first lap.
Yeah, if I'm being honest with you, Jason's probably going to get pretty mad when I say this, but I didn't even look at results after the race.
Well, I thought you finished 5th.
I did finish 5th, to my knowledge, unless something happened.
No, you finished 4th.
Oh, I finished 4th. Okay, cool.
You finished 4th.
Well, then I finished 4th.
Congratulations.
No, you were running 5th until the last lap, and then at some point you got around 4th. Or something happened and then you moved on.
I remember now. Same thing I was going through, overheating. The guy in my class that overheated, he was sitting on the side of the track trying to let his bike cool down.
But your lap times never varied. You actually stayed looking at lap times and stuff. You stayed pretty solid the whole round, even though you thought you were having that problem. Looking at the 4 laps, you actually maintained fairly good consistency on laps. And you weren't that far off of getting to 3rd. The first 2 guys seemed like they were.
Yeah, Jason and Jesse. Jesse's out of New Hampshire. He is a quick guy. He comes from an MX background, so he's pretty much all or nothing at all times.
MX background on a quad or dirt bike?
Dirt bike. And
he
went from a dirt bike straight to a utility quad. He sold his dirt bike to get a utility quad, and
did he have farming to do, and he just decided?
I guess I couldn't tell you. I couldn't give you the answer to that one.
I mean, that is a strange change.
Yeah, but Jason's a super fast guy. He races FTR.
He's been around for a while.
He's been around for a while, and I hate to say it, but I mean, I got my ass kicked by like a 50-something-year-old guy. I mean, he beat us by minutes, and he's also the type of guy which I give him a lot of credit for. I mean, he's in the top couple percent of everybody. Peloton users every morning. I mean, at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, he's no slouch.
Does he want people to know that he's on Peloton?
Probably not, but people know now.
Their commercials are cool. I mean, their commercials are really inspiring. But
he works his butt off. So
that's cool. Well, and in that sand and that track, I mean, the beat down, you could see. I think sometimes the beat down on the quad is actually worse than the beat down on the bike, just because I don't think you guys have as much movement. The sport quad guys especially, and I think your sight lines, like we're up higher on a bike. I cannot tell you how many times Michelle and I just wanted to yell at the guys like, stop taking this line. There were massive holes and they all just kept hitting the hole, and it was like, guys, can you not see that there's a hole? Like,
yeah,
it's just tunnel vision. It's just
Instead of looking ahead, they just see the line and
see the line. But
I agree with you. I know, talking to a lot of people, me as well, the suspension setup for this weekend, almost everybody was way off. I don't think we were expecting the rain that we got. And so when that rain came, and with the whoops, they're usually pretty flowy, just up and down whoops. But with the rain, it kind of V'd everything out. So when you came into the whoop, there was a real sharp edge at the bottom of it, and so it just bottomed you out every single time.
Yeah, there were some massive holes.
Yeah, it was definitely beating down on everybody. I know I specifically told Santo and his guys this week to really check out especially the rear end of my frame, just to make sure there was no cracks or anything, specifically because of how much I was bottoming out.
On this track, with all the rain we got, because that's what when we were walking on Sunday, we noticed how nice the dirt was packed in on the walk. Now there were the sandy sections that are just the sandy sections, but overall on the trails, was it sandier or packed in better this year?
It was extremely packed in, but I think that's what caused a lot of us to have overheating issues we had. Instead of it, sand is always going to get caught in your radiator, but instead of kind of being the grains, and they might fly out with the wind that you have or your fan pulling it through, it kind of just clumped in there, almost like a mud race. It just kind of clumped on there and held on for dear life. And almost everybody I talked to that raced a 4x4 this weekend said that they were experiencing overheating issues. And
where's your radiator at?
It's directly in the front. I mean,
so it sits right in front of everything.
Right in front of everything.
And you have how many fans?
Just one.
Running the whole time?
Mm-hmm. Mine's wired to run the whole time.
And y'all still overheat?
Mm-hmm.
He even had a cover over his radiator.
How is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
I could not tell you.
Like that just seems. I don't.
So how do guys like Brandon and how did they get through that? Because nothing against you guys, but they were scooting. They were scooting along, and I know their speed is faster, so they're pushing more air, but they're also coming up on which by the way, I wish we could all have horns. listening to them honk the horns, you're like, all of a sudden you're sitting on the woods and he's like, bah, 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 and you're like, oh wait, that's 4x4 coming through. And
dude, I'll tell you what, because I don't know if there's a rule against that. I'm sure Jason could tell me, but my Florida bike has a horn on it, and I use it at FTRs. And the difference between using it at FTRs versus I can't use it at GNCCs because there is a rule specifically against it, except for the pro classes.
Why is that?
The pros and WXC, right?
The pro 4x4 guys and the WXC class can have horns. Nobody else can. I've always wondered why all 4x4s can't.
I want a little bell.
Well, because you don't have a clutch, so it's not like you can pull
you can't rev it.
But WXC has.
Yeah, so I don't.
But maybe it's hard. Maybe their voices don't carry like a.
But you
can pull in your clutch.
Yeah.
FTR, there's not a rule.
Yeah.
Against horns.
So that's why
I would love to have like the little bell. Bring, bring, bring.
Who's the guy at FTR?
You don't need to move your hands from anything.
There's a guy at FTR who races pre-mod, or not pre-mod, but like a vintage class, and his horn is like one of the
Ugas.
No, it's like, well, yeah, there's one of those, but there's another one that's like. I
mean, that only adds an element of fun. Can you imagine, like, you're coming through and like, I would start laughing. If someone hit one of those little crazy horns, I'd be like, first of all, I'm laughing, but I'll get out of the way because that's awesome.
Well, the really funny part is at GNCC is when one of the pros horns will get stuck on.
Oh,
and so it's just going the entire way around the track. Like, I remember when I raced the youth race, I'd be watching the AM race, and one of the pros' horns got stuck, and I mean, you could hear him from from a minute or two away, just going through the woods.
And as it goes through and it goes by,
exactly. It's the funniest thing in the world. I mean, it'd probably piss me off if I was racing, but it's the funniest thing in the world
and we're not making fun of it. The reason they get to use it is because they catch people so fast.
Yeah.
And they don't have a clutch. Like, for people with clutches, we just pull it and just and rev. Yeah. They don't have that capacity. So they do. But I do think it's weird that, like, you guys also catch people in the A class and you don't have that capacity. So I guess you have to get really loud and scream. Or I would think that everybody can hear your bikes coming.
Yeah. For the most part, most people get out of the way. I only have to yell a couple times. But back to the original thing, overheating.
Yeah.
I was talking to Brandon and a couple other pros, and they were all saying that they were overheating as well. They just, which I learned this trick halfway through the race. If you start to overheat, most of the time it was in one section of the track that was all single trail when you're not pushing a lot of air through, and nobody can get around you. So what you do is you just stop in the middle of the trail, shut the bike off, and then turn it back on, and it resets limp mode and allows you to keep going. So as long as you stop in a single track section where nobody else can get around you, it works pretty good.
So if you also overheat, it goes into limp mode and shuts you down. It
goes into limp mode, and you can go about 5 miles an hour. And so you have to kill the bike, and then which limp mode isn't until 240 degrees. So if you're in limp mode, it's because you're getting hot, like pretty hot.
Yeah.
And that's even with people go when we
no,
get.
That's just the utilities, right?
Yeah, that's just the utility. If the sports quads overheat, you're blown. You're just
yeah.
But for the utilities, we even when we get our ECUs reflashed, we even have them raise the temperature on the limp mode for the ECU. There's no way to actually disable it, so we just raise it enough to where it's not going to cause damage to the motor. But
you change the limits.
I don't think you'd want to be sitting on an engine at 1,000 cc's that potentially can blow up in your lap. So
yeah, I don't think I'd want to do that either.
But that is one of those weird dynamics. But yeah, this race with the wet dirt, I can see the wet dirt. But when you came through and you told us that, I was looking inside. I'm like, dude, it looks pretty clear in there. So I couldn't really tell. But that is one of the things that having the capability, they were able to hose it down and it kind of. But like I said, that lap and your last lap, honestly, were roughly the same. So as much as you felt like there was a problem, you were still.
Well, I'll tell you,
trucking along.
I'll tell you, my last lap was my worst lap for overheating issues. Every other lap, I'd overheated probably 2 to 3 times throughout the lap. But on the last lap, I'd say it was probably 10 plus times that it overheated. And so when
hitting those mud holes, man.
Yeah. So I was really excited when my dad called me after the race and told me my last lap was my fastest, because I was like, man, imagine if I wasn't overheating, how much faster it would have been. But that's kind of what I set out to do at Florida, because the track is so rough and everybody says it's the hardest race of the year. So I was like, man, if I can make my last lap my fastest lap at this track, who knows what I can do at the rest of the races. So I was pretty excited about that. But
where are you on the pro side of the utility quad? Sorry, lost my train of thought there for a second. Florida boy against the champion. They had, honestly, watching them in the woods, they were nose to tail a lot.
Yeah,
and they were having a heck. I mean, Brandon at one point, he was photographer and he's waving it, gave him a thumbs up, and they're nose to tail. And I'm like, these guys are having a blast. They're just having a field day. And at that point, Brandon was not in first; he was in second. Yeah. And I don't know when he got the lead, but I heard he won. But when I passed by him, this was well after the finish, so they had already done podium and everything. Mm-hmm. He was sitting in his trailer, and that's why I came to your sister and said, did Brandon win or finish second? And she said, oh, he won. And I thought, well, he didn't look like it. He looked like all sad, and I thought, that's not the face of a champion. But he didn't look like he was excited about winning, but maybe it was decompression.
Yeah.
I was passing by in 5-second view, but congratulations to the local guy to getting the Florida win. So did you get any download from how his race went?
Yeah, I heard it was pretty good. Kind of the same thing everybody was experiencing on the 4x4. I know I've kind of beaten a dead horse here, but suspension setup was pretty good. But also at the same time, everybody that I talked to 4x4 wise said that our setups were way too soft for the sand this weekend, and just battling with overheating issues as well, like the rest of everybody. But one person I do want to say big congrats to is Landon Wolf, for this is his first race back this year. And
I meant Cody Collier.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I said the wrong name.
But Landon Wolf, this was his first race back of the year, and I'm not too sure how many he's going to do, but for him to just come back after not riding them, well, I'm sure he rode a little bit, but after not riding all off season and coming back and just showing up casually and getting third, I mean, I don't think that's too shabby there, but that kind of goes to show what a his 4 or 5 time former champ does for you.
His skill set hasn't gone away.
Yeah. No.
He didn't forget how to ride. He just may not have the same shape that he had before.
But yeah, it was good. Obviously, we talked about it. Brandon took the win. Cody got second, and then Landon Wolf got third. With Hayden Mickelson, he had a good showing at Big Buck, but I don't know if he was battling with the issues like everybody else and just couldn't get it done. But over 3 minutes behind Brandon this weekend, so not too sure what happened to him. But
I want to ask on the WXC side, because I'm of the opinion, and I've told this before, I'm of the opinion these women on these 4x4s, on the 450s, the fact that they are, this is going to sound so negative, manhandling those quads, they come through, they are on a mission. One of them created a whole new line, and guys were getting stuck. And this woman's like, nope. She bounced side to side, popped out, went around Michelle, went around everybody. She was on a mission, and it was like the skill set that I'm really impressed with how they handle the machine. That they're not big women, they're women on machines that if you do weight per capita thing, and
they're not big.
There's a big discrepancy going on there.
Most of them are probably.
It's kind of like you
135 to 150. Yeah, I'm way too small to be on that utility quad.
I mean, it's the same, and I mean that. But watching them ride, they're racing, and I know there's been this talk about the women bike pros going into the afternoon race, and I think it's cool that they give them this time to kind of shine, because if you look at the results, they're there. The fifth place person was the first woman.
Yeah.
Against 4x4s and different things.
Yeah.
So they were there, but on this particular track, would you think 450 or 4x4 would be easier?
450.
450.
450 would beat you up more, but 450 would be faster
On this particular.
Yeah. And that kind of goes for any track, really. The 450 is always going to be faster, but the 4x4 is going to be a smoother ride.
Do you guys push, like in car racing, you can be tight or loose? And watching the 4x4s at the start, it looks like you guys put the quad wants to continue going straight. So as you're trying to turn, you can't separate the front and back wheels like on a 450. You can slide, and they can pivot and go. Where you guys are trying to pivot, the quad just wants to keep going straight. And in car racing, they call that pushing. Do they push, and how do you fight that versus on the 450s, you guys get down on the opposite side and you slide it. How do you handle that difference on a utility quad?
No, it's definitely a learning curve. They do push quite a bit, especially in those open sections, but it all comes down to a lot of testing and tuning with caster, camber, well, mostly caster, and people mess with their toe quite a bit to figure that out, and then really suspension, because if you can on the 4x4, if you can grab front brake and it drops your nose and gets the weight off the rear end, you can slide it a little bit, but it just takes a lot of tuning and a lot of time invested into it.
Would it be legal, Mr. Technician, to have a little button at the start, especially that you could disengage the front wheels so that only the back wheels?
It's already there. They're not 4x4 all the time.
Yeah, you can unlock it.
Yeah,
oh, really?
Yeah.
You can switch
While
between.
you're moving?
Just nobody does it.
It's just one more thing to break. That system, I would imagine, is not designed to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
I was just thinking at the start, try to be able to pivot some of those turns, especially when they're fighting for the inside.
It's probably one of the things you just have to try and see. It may make it worse and may be better.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Especially if one goes to tip over, because they're a heavy son.
Well, the thing is, ask me.
They're heavy son.
How they feel when they land on top of you. But I'm sure the issue with that is everybody else would be in 4-wheel drive. So when you try and put down almost 100 horsepower to the ground on just your rear wheels, and everybody else has got 4-wheel drive, and your rear wheels are just spinning off the start, then they're gonna grab and probably, pull you.
It was just one of those random thoughts of like, dude, if you could disengage that just for those sharp corners too.
It'd be trial and error. You'd have to try and see if it does anything or not.
Yeah, I'm kind of with him though. Good God, I'd hate to break that system if it broke.
Oh, I'm sure it's quite expensive.
Or if one side broke, you'd be like Nemo and just going in a circle. Like,
man, everything on the 4x4 is like at least 3 times as expensive as a sport quad. I'm learning.
Well, any other on the morning race? We jumped straight to the morning. We skipped the little kids. We'll go back to them if there's anybody you want to touch on. But I got hour and 39-minute race. I know you're supposed to go an hour 40 minimum, but I'm curious. Is it just kind of like that? They get close, and if they know they're going to send them, it's going to take too long to complete it.
I'm sure. I mean, I was running about 30-minute lap time, so I'm sure Brandon was probably in the 26s, 27s. Maybe even 25s. I'm not too sure. Like I said, I didn't go back and look at results. But so I mean, if you send him for another lap, he's 2:05 at least. So
and that leads everybody else.
That means everybody else, like me, who's running 30-minute laps. Like you see here, I finished at 2:02.
Yeah.
So let's just take me for example. I'm already 23 minutes behind him at the finish of the first lap, or at the finish of the race.
Back even an hour or more.
So at the end of the race, I'm probably going to be 30 minutes behind him. So, and when you're already running behind, I mean, we started 30 minutes late. We didn't start till 11:30.
It was the same thing on Sunday.
So then you'll be starting that much later at the afternoon race. So I think,
it's just
when you're within 45 seconds of I mean, and then once they make that call, they make that call. Like, I think after the third, or at the start of the third lap, they were like, okay, we're it's going to be a 4-lap race and that's it. Well, Brandon may have just been able to turn it up, an extra 20 seconds a lap, and that's what gave him under the, hour and 40-minute mark. They can't really plan for him being any faster than what he is. They can only go off of what the lap times they have at hand.
Anything catch your eye in the 10 o'clock race that was kind of newsworthy? Or
I like Caden Wharf finishing 5th. He's a 4x4 rookie, or 4x4 pro rookie, and he had a really nasty crash last race where they thought he even possibly broke his femur with the way the swelling was and the bruising was. They had him carted off at the last race at Big Buck. So to see him bounce back and get 5th, and then obviously to touch on the women, Jessica Elioff took the win with Hannah Hunter finishing 2nd, and Caitlin Osborne got 3rd. So pretty typical podium there. Nothing to write home about.
Look at that.
Jason Lyons,
top 20.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's impressive. We're going to
start on row 6, so probably 50 people start in front of us.
Yeah, that's not.
So
bad.
that's not bad.
There's a guy in the afternoon race that we're going to touch on that.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Not in the quads, but in dirt bikes. Anything in the? I know you kind of know some of the local kids and stuff. Was there anything in the morning that there was a lot of kids, and I don't know any of them, but I just know that I didn't see. Trying to look through results, I didn't recognize anybody that really caught my eye.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of Florida kids out there, obviously, this weekend. Like Clayton Correnti taking 2nd place overall on the day. That was a good ride out of him. Avery Collins finished 5th overall for the day. John Hancock finishing right behind her in 6th. I know Avery was running 1st at one point, which is pretty badass. Women.
Yeah, she's pretty cool little girl. She's
young lady running 1st overall for the youth race. That's not a bad feat.
She mixes it up with the boys. she's not afraid.
But yeah, a lot of Florida Florida kids out there this weekend. So congratulations to all of them for racing the national races. But
let's get to the showtime. The afternoon race, I did not stay. I came on home, but I tried to follow it. But you guys did 4 laps, and they also did 4 laps, right?
correct. They
Yeah.
did 4 laps. Sorry,
They did extend their track a little bit. They had the Monster Mile section, which we saw it on the bike side. That was a nasty section. That was that was beach sand.
Yeah,
that was straight up beach sand. That I don't know how.
but it was good because it was wet. As long as you carried momentum, you were fine.
Yeah, a lot of up downs.
Yeah, it actually looked. I mean, it was different. It's not what you expect if you come to Florida, that you're going up and down in a valley type deal.
And tying that in, and I imagine where they tied them in right there where that guy was videoing.
Yeah,
that corner to get around back to the whoop section. I bet you that corner got nasty, deep.
I'm sure. But again, nothing crazy to write home about here. I mean, Bryson Neal took the win, second race in a row. Pretty convincingly over Walker with, what is that, about 45, almost a minute lead over Walker. And then they had a huge lead over Bryson and Walker, just for no pun intended, but walked away from everybody with third place Hunter Hart finishing over 6 minutes behind Walker. I mean, that is a huge gap for XC1.
But I will say, I'm pretty impressed with Walker for the injuries he's had to come back and actually be in the second place spot. He didn't have a great first round. I mean, for him, he didn't have a great first round. But I guess Bryson's the guy to beat, and it's one of those things. No one has ever lost the title and then come back and won the title.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was going to say. With the quad side, like, history is now repeating itself again because you have a champion numerous years, then something happens.
Yep.
Another guy steps in, and then it transfers to him. Yeah. And it's a snowball effect.
It really is. Which I wish as a quad guy we could break that system, because it is frustrating. I love Bryson Neal. I've always been a fan ever since. And this goes into the social media side we talk about a lot of times. Back in like 2016, 2017 is when I really started liking him, because he was the only pro who posted GoPros. No other, they'd all wear them, but he was the only one who'd actually post them. And so just to tie in a little bit to the social media side, people do care. I mean, you gain your following. That's why I ended up liking Bryson Neal. But another solid ride out of Josh Merritt, finishing 4th. I mean, I'm excited to see what he does this year. I'm not going to say he's a title contender yet, because I just think Bryson Neal and Walker are just on a totally different level. I mean, as that goes to show this weekend, finishing over 6 minutes, and Bryson finishing over 7 minutes in front of Hunter. But
that's a lot of time to make up.
Yeah. I mean, we raced for a long time, but that's a lot of time to make up. And another good ride out of the Gator.
Yeah,
that's what, a minute 30 a lap, pretty much.
Yeah, that you're putting in a charge somewhere where they can't, or vice versa. That or you're getting hung up where they're finding a rhythm.
At that level, the speed is what a speed is. You're not. If they got you by that much, they got you by that much. You're not going to make it up.
And I don't know if you guys can see it, but like when we were out watching the bikes on Sunday, there was a lead group, and there was a gap. And then there was a big group in the second group, and then there was a gap, and then there was a third group, a smaller third group. And the funny thing is we all kind of commented, if you can get to the front of your group, that's as far as you're going to make it, because the gaps were too big.
You're not making it up.
Yeah, you're not bridging the gap.
And it stayed that way the entire 3 hours.
Yeah,
the whole time.
Yeah, and so I'm guessing these guys, once they kind of lose that toe, you kind of, I better make sure I'm leading my group.
And that's kind of how it is here, but you see it more in twos than you do in a group. Like you have Bryson Neal, Walker Fowler, about a minute apart. Then you have Josh Merritt and Hunter Hart, about 30 seconds apart. Then you have Adam McGill was kind of in his own world this weekend.
That's normal.
But
He's always in his own world, isn't he? I mean, he's like the people's champ, even if he's not champion. He does race reports. He does he's still got a group, and honestly,
He's like Johnny G. He'll be around.
Yeah, he's going to be around for
quite a while.
And for the program that he runs, I'm not saying it's a bad program, but the program that he runs, the fact that he's still coming out here and finishing top fives, over and over again, it's like, okay, there's something still there.
I mean, it's like you look at a Stu Baylor. I mean, like, I don't understand how he does it.
Stu Baylor, before we go any further, we're getting ready to watch the start of the afternoon race. And Stu is coming out on his bike. He's got his headband on, and he's got his monster helmet, and he's cruising out. And Stu Baylor is Stu Baylor. He doesn't look like Caleb Russell. Let's put it that way.
Well, I'll tell you what. So they've been at the beach some, and him, his wife, and son, they took a picture. He had his shirt off. He's a big boy, but big boy's got abs. He is solid.
Well, he's also got side fins.
Yes, but he is.
Do you think that's why he's so good? Because he has so much fat that just pushes him through the race?
There has been discussion. Ricky Russell actually talked about it on a podcast. But my whole point of that is there was this little boy on an e-bike pedaling, and he stared longingly at Stu Baylor as, you are my person. Because the little boy was a bigger little boy. And he was like, that's my idol right there. If he can do it,
that's what I'm going to be when
if he can do it, I can do it. And I think for my whole point of that is for make the McGill reference is he has a group. He interacts with the fans, adults, children. If it's an adult, hey, I'll crack a beer and drink with you. If it's
he
the
acts
kids,
normal.
Yeah.
That
was
was
the
same with
coolest-
McGill. He acts normal.
That was the coolest thing about Adam. Whenever I was a youth rider, and obviously he'd stay down here in Florida throughout the winter months, so he knew who all the Florida kids were. And I was never the fastest youth rider. I mean, I'm still not the fastest guy now, but
you're not youth anymore. You're an adult.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm still not the fastest guy now, but he would always come up to me and tell me good luck and ask how my race was and stuff. It was he's just a very personable person.
He didn't know me, no pun intended. He didn't know me from Adam. And we were at Gainesville at Gatorback for one of the hair scrambles one year. And he had, I can't remember if it was a Ranger or a Mazda. They're the same. With his stuff in the back of that. And he's just hanging out. He had raced. And he's just hanging out talking to people at an FTR race. And it was like, you're a pro. And at that point, he was higher up in the pros. And that's been years. And he's still doing it. So it's just, I know we're praising this guy that finished fifth, but
think about it on the dirt bike side. I guarantee who finished fifth on the dirt bike side?
In what class?
XC1.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Josh Trey.
Okay,
that's a bad example. Yeah.
But whoever finished fourth, I can guarantee you they're not coming to an FTR race and talking to people all day.
No.
They're probably going to bring their rig, and they're going to sit in their rig all day in the AC.
Yeah, Ashburn. Well,
I don't know. That might be a bad example.
Well, we get the point.
I tried.
We get the point. We get the point.
Which we might be getting visitors soon. I saw the Monster pool. But
no, it was a good race. I mean, I think we had the top 37 did 4 laps. Is there anybody? Because in the bikes there was a stunner of someone that
the top college A guy was Brody Lee. He finished 18th overall.
And the top XC2 guy finished 8th overall.
Which I want you to look at where he's from. He's from California. He's a works pro, but he decided he wanted to try out GNCC this year. So he's come over and he's racing GNCC this year.
That's not a bad intro from California. I can tell you, work stuff and that Florida round are not similar.
Now look, I want you to
rough sand beat down out of me.
Yeah,
I want you to look at.
You have your own results?
Yeah, you double printed.
Oh. Dang.
I want you to look at 12th overall. He finished second in XC2 class. Look at where he's from and try to pronounce that.
Oh, St. Joseph's du Lac, Quebec.
Yeah,
Canadian.
He's Canadian.
I would have not been able to pronounce that.
Just say Canada.
But that's cool though, coming from Canada, finishing on the box at an XC2. But isn't Canada pretty sandy too?
It can.
It has parts.
There are because like Gopher Dunes and that kind of stuff. It can have sandy. Like there is speculation that Gopher Dunes is sandier than Southwood.
Yeah.
So, welcome home. The boss is home. Where's the guy that raced the first race that was from? Is that the guy the guy has the full-time job for one of the companies that on the bike? You and I talked about it after South Carolina.
We have an intruder.
Oh no,
It's a bee.
it's a bee.
Yeah.
Oh no, the guy that he works for one of the companies. Oh, Fast Company, Fast.
Oh, Logan.
Logan, did
He didn't come to this.
He didn't
one.
come to
I
this
think
one?
he's going to be at Georgia this weekend. though.
Okay. All right. But
Oh, there's another.
another
Well, that's-
Quebecian?
That's California, isn't it?
No,
CA. But that's a really weird.
that's
That
Saint
cannot be Clotilde
Clotilde de Beau. That's
Canada,
one of
I
the-
would assume.
That's Canada, yes.
But a lot of Canadian riders.
Well, it's
I've
bike
been
week,
coming
right?
Yeah, it's bike week. They
It's
come.
bike week. They come. Oh, it's bike week. They come down.
Oh, the note.
My one of our dogs is collecting items to get to Michelle as she comes in the door.
Wow. Another Canadian.
Yeah,
So
they
what's
come
so
down.
special about Bike Week for Canadians?
It's the biggest motorcycle event in the U.S. I mean, it's only once a year. They come down. Like they'll come down for their winter.
We have an intruder.
Which we do have how many beehives out back? A lot.
Yeah, yeah. We have. There's a bee in there. We have a local beekeeper right here.
He's under the.
He's under the paper.
We have a
He's
local
trapped.
beekeeper who makes
should make
honey,
him our pet.
and we let him put our hives.
Can we get a glass jar?
But yes, the whole point is they come down from Canada. They go to Bike Week. They probably went to watch Arena Cross.
Yeah.
They raced. They probably are going to go to
No,
the 200.
they stay down here for at least several weeks. They're
Oh,
not.
really?
Yeah, they don't just come down.
So it's like a vacation,
Yes.
like a
Yeah.
big vacation. Oh, okay.
and they tour around. They'll do different things.
There's some that show up to FTR on bikes and race.
Oh, okay.
So, but yes, I think overall, I think good race. Vet A. Why is Vet A 28 plus on quads?
Mm-hmm.
And it's
I think
30
it's
on
the
a
same.
bike.
I think it's the same on bikes now.
Oh, is
For at GNCC, I think.
No, it's still 30.
Oh, it is still 30?
Yeah.
Yeah, they changed all the classes up. I don't know why, but like College A used to be 16 to
24.
20. Well, for us, whenever I raced College B, I think it was 16 to 21, I think. And then Junior A was 22 to however.
Yeah.
May I make a mathematical suggestion? The college age in America is 18 to something. So I believe the junior should be what
You know,
college
I've
A
always
is,
said that.
and college should
I
be
have
what junior
always
is.
said that.
If we look at the ages,
I've never understood why they named College A or like why they named the college classes 16 to 18 because at 16 years old, I was definitely not in college.
But in Canada, you could go to college, and in England,
Well, I mean,
you
you
can go to
can
college.
hear if you're smart
Yeah.
enough.
I mean, I guess I technically was in college, but I wasn't in college, you know? Like I was just dual enrolled.
There is the point of the off-track part. We went off-track and off-base. But,
So far off track.
but good racing, good turnout. I think as a fan, I'll touch on this. The pageantry that GNCC creates for each race. No race is held in any different regard. They have a prayer. Ricky Towery, he may say the same prayer, relatively same, 8 times during the weekend, and you get a national anthem. You get music. You get that feeling of, man, I'm important. What does it feel for a guy sitting on the line? Is it the same? Do you also get that excitement of the pageantry, or is it just kind of like, dude, can we get going?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, I'll tell you when I show up to the line and they start playing Teenage Wasteland, that's when I get nervous. And then
I think that's called Baba O'Reilly. The
Is
actual, yeah, it's actually the name of the song is Baba O'Reilly.
I don't know. I just know it as Teenage Wasteland. But
So does most of America.
when they play the national anthem, I get not nervous anymore. Which that might not be English the way I said that, but I'm not nervous anymore when they play the national anthem, I just get fired up and I'm like, okay, let's go. But talking about the pageantry, do you know what they've started doing for the youth classes now?
No.
Which I don't agree with this at all, and
Okay.
that might be a hot take. But at least for the quads, I would assume they'd be doing it for the bikes as well. But the YXC1 gets rider intros now.
Oh, really?
Yes. Like full rider intros. They're doing wheelies on the way to the start line. I mean,
if you're top amateur kids, I mean, and you've earned yourself that spot. I mean,
So they're doing that for the junior quads?
yeah, for the youth youth XC1 class, they're doing it.
Well, they do call it YXC1. I mean, it's.
yeah.
Well, like I wish they would have had that when I was in that class. You know,
Did
like,
you do a wheelie?
yeah.
We've already determined that I would crash.
I mean,
Just
I
waiting.
might. You have some of those riders that like practice a start on the way. That might be my intro race. But ever since we talked about it on the last podcast, but I never wanted to do rider intros because at Palaca 2015, I watched Josh Merritt do a 2-wheel. He was riding on 2 wheels and tried to go up into a wheelie. Well, didn't make it into the wheelie and just rode on 1 wheel, and his bike started tumbling down the start straight. Seat went flying everywhere, and but that's what we were talking about last race. How I thought it was cool to see him in 2015 do that, and then he was on the box last race, finishing second. So he definitely progressed quite a bit.
But it's one of those things. If you live in the east side of the United States and one of these races is going on, it's an all-day event. You go there, everybody complains about how much it costs. I don't think you realize how much racing you can watch and where you can go.
It's really
And at
not
the end
that
of the
big,
day,
that much.
Yeah.
it's cheap compared to other things.
Yeah. And the fact that this facility, you can watch the start and then you can disappear and go walk in the woods. They give you a map on thing. You can go walk and you can see. And we saw 4 or 5 different miles of track that we went to.
And we didn't really have to walk that far.
No.
With the way it was, everything was based off that main drag.
Yeah.
And you just go left or right, and you're
You're
where you
watching.
wanna be.
Yeah.
So if you're around and it's like, man, this seems like it'd be fun. Pack a lunch, pack some drinks, and then just go for a walk. And you get to go hang out in nature. I scared a snake, which probably scared me on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get to be with nature.
Yeah.
But I think they're fun. But so the quad event overall, did we lose anybody? Have you heard of any injuries? Are we good moving to? Because you only have this is the only race of the season where you guys go back to back.
Yeah, which it sounds like we're about to go back-to-back mud races. Supposedly the Georgia property is underwater right now.
How's that possible? It's on a hill.
I have no clue, but I
a lot of
mean,
work.
There's a lot of water.
but supposedly it's underwater right now, and there was even talks about canceling it this past weekend, but I don't think that's going to happen. But they're expecting like another probably 2 to 3 inches of rain this week, so it's going to be sloppy.
Well, why not just stay in Florida?
So why would I do that?
No, I'm talking about GNCC.
Oh.
They're already there.
They talked about that, but where else are they going to go? They can't race that same track. It got destroyed, and Hog Waller is hosting a mud bog event next weekend. So,
well, then there you
Oh,
they got to find something.
Tell me if this is true.
Okay,
We like hot takes.
we do like hot takes.
I heard that Snowshoe this year there is a truck show.
There is a
scheduled
truck
the
show.
same weekend.
There is a truck show.
How's that going to work?
It was scheduled by some random local West Virginian, and I guess some of his buddies raced, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to come to the race this weekend?" And he thought it was the best idea in the world to that they're gonna host a truck meet at the same time.
So, do you have an opinion on this, or how do you think this is going to play out?
I think this is going to be disastrous, and it's going to be a complete shit show.
It is,
And
but I mean, Snowshoe already
probably
is a
law
shit show,
enforcement is going to be
Very busy.
involved, and
It's already rough when just GNCC.
it's kind of, I would say it's probably going to have the same consequences possibly as what happened at Daytona Supercross.
Oh yeah, we
Their
talked
little
about that.
screw up,
Yeah.
is probably going to cost the way that event is run. And if this goes the way it's probably going to go, then I would probably say you could lose Snowshoe because of incompetence.
Yeah. Which, can we get a hot take on what happened at Daytona for a second? Like,
Oh,
that That's such a great look for our sport, isn't it? I mean, just going out on the track while the race is still going. I mean,
when you can't, they didn't even let Aaron Plessinger finish. They pulled him off the track because it wasn't safe for them to complete the lap. Derek was standing on the inside, so pit wall side. Mm-hmm. He said he has video of the guards opening the gates to let people on the track before the race was finished. Like Jet finished, but then the guards or the staff or whoever opened the gates. That made then those people started going.
So there was already barricades there.
Yes.
And they opened them.
They opened them.
Why?
I don't know why. But then what happened is the people across the way on the banking saw them start going, and they just pushed down the barricades. And Jason Anderson, who was in he was in ninth place. Ninth place, couldn't finish his lap because Derek said there were guys jumping the finish line, and they were jumping and people were crossing the finish line. A blind jump. I'm telling you, everybody loved Daytona because you could stand right there and watch that race. And like you were saying, I'm guessing next year that seating will not be available anymore.
Yeah.
They just changed the flow of what happened there.
It'll get back to the way it used to be. You can be, if you have the credentials and everything, you can be over there in the pits.
Yeah.
Or you're in the stands.
Yeah.
There ain't nothing in between.
Yeah. Like the guy taking the goggles off Jet's helmet. I mean, like, dude.
They did the same thing to Vial. We're making fun of, we're really pointing to, but Vial, they were like grabbing him and he finally just took him off. But Jets, they didn't even, there's talk that Jet nodded to the guy and everything. Dude, Michelle's like, that's battery. Like, you don't touch somebody.
Yeah.
I thought it was an absolutely horrible look of because Supercross right now, every race is packed. The racing is good. The facilities are good. That was not a good look for
Well,
Supercross.
like you said, though, Sunday, that Daytona is different because Daytona runs the race. It's not AMA. It's not the normal parameters. So I would say they screwed the pooch.
Yeah, and the bad thing is they did, but also the adults did. The adults, I'm guaranteeing a 12-year-old kid's not the one that started that melee. It was an adult. It was an adult. Mm-hmm. Probably a Florida motocross FTR member, someone like, oh my God, let's go, because they always let us on the track. But also, let's use our brain. There are still bikes on the track.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you saw the video where Jason Anderson runs into the girl.
Derek was saying, so they finished. They were having to, the way it did is you came off the track and they had to go all the way around to bring them back. The riders were having to do what we do in the woods. They were having to rev their bikes. People were surrounding them, like being attacked on the streets. That's what they were doing. They were basically surrounding them, and they just finally started pulling riders off the track and giving them the place where they were. So it's in GNCC, we walked the track. I mean, there are times like I thought we were all going to get hit a couple times because the track got real wide real quick in some areas.
Yeah.
And you just kind of hug a tree and you know they're not going to hit a tree.
Yeah.
But see, that's also the difference between motocross and off-road in general. Heathens, normal people.
I like motocross. I'm a heathen.
Yeah, but like, why? I have never been like.
But think about
the
average crowd at a motocross. I mean, think about Redbud. I mean,
oh yeah, but they don't do that at Redbud. They got fences and they stay behind the fences.
Yeah. And like, why would I don't see? They look at these people like they're gods.
They are pretty good looking.
But it's just a normal guy who knows how to race a dirt bike.
I don't get it. Like,
I think for Daytona, it's
even as a kid, I didn't.
Yeah,
you're a good rider. You're cool. Like, but it's not like, oh my God, let me bow down to you.
Yeah.
Like,
but at Daytona, it's that environment of they let the people they do for
which
years.
Is
they've
cool.
been letting them on the track afterwards. Yeah. They get to be close for the celebration because that's the only podium of the year. But if you think about other Supercrosses, they're at the end zone of a stadium. No one in the stands. If you're behind, you don't even get to see the podium celebration.
Yeah.
So to be at Daytona, where you can go on the track and celebrate, it's that environment. That's cool, but I think they ruined it. I think they ruined it.
I mean, you can do that at a pro motocross, but you just
but there's a fence.
Yeah.
There's a fence there, and I guarantee you, Big John will smack you down if you cross over that fence.
I love Big John.
How long has Big John been involved?
A long time.
Mm-hmm.
A long time.
Big John, props to Big John. You're still doing this, and you have a role in basically whatever racing productions. I've seen Big John at SMX races. I've seen Big John at Motocross the Nations. I've seen Big John.
I mean, he's anywhere.
He's anywhere. He'll be at a GNCC one weekend and Mini-O's the next. I mean, it's crazy, like where you see him. But
Yeah.
Speaking of GNCC, is Bolton still around?
To my
Jared?
knowledge, yes.
Is he still
I
part
haven't
of
seen
GNCC?
him not.
Yeah, he's a redheaded guy, right?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah, he does.
I think he's the lead trail guy.
He's
He's not the lead.
He's not the lead guy.
He's assist. He's up there. He's number 2 or 3 of the track
Okay.
stuff.
Because I haven't. He used to do a little more on social media. He's kind of gotten quiet.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him as much.
But he does like the motor. He does a bunch of stuff. He's kind of like Big John.
He's at like all the
numerous
events. Yeah.
I know he's been at. I saw him post stuff on High Point. Like at High Point
Mhm.
last year, he was basically running on a little 70 or 110 or something,
Yeah.
running back and forth doing stuff. But that's part of being. That's one of those things. If you like racing, you may not be a racer anymore, but Racer Productions has a job for you.
Yeah.
If you're willing to work, you can go to all kinds of racing.
It's like my friend Jeremy Holbert. He goes to kind of like Big John. He's at a Supercross event. He's at a. I mean, his main thing is GNCC. Basically, runs the GNCC just behind the door. But
Don't tell Rita that.
well, it's Rita's son.
Rita runs the GNCC.
Rita's son.
Son-in-law or son?
I'm pretty sure son. It's one of their
I
sons.
thought Davey was the son. Davy's sister's the attorney.
Mm-hmm.
It's somebody's son who does.
Okay.
Who's there?
Probably son-in-law.
Okay.
But I don't know about son-in-law.
Okay.
Well, if they don't have the same last name, it's not directly related.
But he's
he runs.
he's the same way.
Okay.
But like you were saying, I don't even know where I was.
We have thrown MJ off, but nonetheless, he does a lot. He's there. You see him in a lot of different things. Anything more on the quad side of things?
No, I'm done. I'm done.
All
So
right.
obviously, I can't get my card straight here. So
That's all right. But the point is, everybody gives Race Productions and MX Sports a lot of crap because they're money hungry. I don't know about you. I don't know how much diesel a D4 uses or Bobcats use or the semis or the water truck that goes from each event. And that's their baby. They charge a good amount of money, but also they have the liability. They have the stuff, and they're involved in every aspect of motorcycle and quad racing in the United States of America. No one else. I mean, if you want to try it, go for it. If you want to try it, go for it. Congratulations to them. They could walk away from all of this now. They could sell this baby and say, sayonara.
Yeah.
So I know we dig on them. We all have pros and cons, but they also are an important part of the motorcycle quilt that is racing in America.
well, you got to think about it. Where can you camp for the entire weekend and watch racing for $35? Like I know,
An FTR race.
well, yeah. But let's be honest here. FTR versus GNCC. I mean,
No, the FTR is fine, but yes, on that national level,
Yeah.
the national level where you're going to get the music and the pageantry and the podium,
Yeah.
and all that.
Like-
It's the premier racing. It is. Jason and I were talking about it. You have Supercross and motocross. They are two different animals, but the guys do both disciplines. In the motorcycle world, you have GNCC, which the guys are out biking the track. They're checking things, and then you have enduro, and it's like GNCC, as dirty as it is the Supercross, and enduro is the motocross. Everybody wants to be the number one GNCC racer,
yeah.
and that's where every factory sends their guys, and it's the same. People would rather win a Supercross title than a motocross title, even though we all ride motocross. You want to win the Supercross title.
Yeah.
Same thing with the GNCC and the enduro. Everybody sends their guys to the GNCC.
Yeah. Contracts are signed for GNCC.
Yeah.
And then you're going to do another series. So transitioning to that, great day on Saturday. Track was in good shape. we got there Sunday morning as the youth were out riding. They were going. Everything had been delayed a little bit because I guess they got poured on Saturday night into Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I guess they went out and the guy got on the bulldozer and started bulldozing more of the trail to freshen it up, clean it up, do some more. And we got ready for the 10 o'clock race, and it was a beautiful day. Jason, what did you think of the crowd and the track on the 10 o'clock?
Well, it was good until what? About 2 hours in on the 1 o'clock race?
Yeah. This is what GNCC, like I said, I didn't even know there was mud until I left Saturday. So Mindy and Gunner were like, we want to go see the mud area. Well, did you have an option? Could you turn left or go straight, or did you only have one way to go through the mud towards the finish?
There was multiple lines that opened up, but there was no like easy hard.
Because there was, and I don't know what happened, but I think the easy got hard and the harder got easier.
Until the 1 o'clock race.
Yeah.
I saw a video from there at the end of the 1 o'clock race, and it was shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, both ways.
Both ways were?
Yeah.
But that mud section, it was probably the last quarter mile of the track.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
Once you cross the main road and you jumped into that, it was...
Yeah, you came through those pines, you went to the fence line, then you turned at the fence line, ran down.
Yeah.
And then you could either go straight or at the fence, at least on Sunday. You could turn at the fence and come in from the other direction. So they allowed them to do that.
Yeah, no,
but everybody was doing that, and nobody was doing this except for a couple people. And this was the easier way, and that was trashed.
Yeah. But so Sunday, it was beautiful. Like, you guys had nice weather the whole day.
Yeah.
Sunday, we're there. We're walking around. We're out there we're out in the woods. We're watching the FMF PowerPoint, the Monster Mile, the section that was only open to bikes on Sunday. The basically out there where the mud holes were. They were going around. We couldn't see it. It looked like there was a mud hole as they were diving off. You've done it before, where they go out way out in the back.
Mm-hmm.
There, it looked as they were getting ready to go in there. There was a drop off, and you could see like guys' heads go bloop, bloop, and then they were coming through. They were running fourth, fifth gear in that section, coming back into that woods. It was like watching Baja in that section. Head shake going, and I don't know how fast they were running. They were hauling ass. But so the 10 o'clock race, they didn't run that section. No, they did run that section, but we didn't
bypass the power.
We didn't go that far out. We stayed close, and we went and played in the mud. And so the 1 o'clock race, all the pageantry. We had our Stu Baylor and the little kid watching the cheer and the everything. Race is going good. We're like, this is beautiful, man. We're out here so you could see basically 4 different miles in one spot. It was awesome. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden we heard like thunder in the distance. And Mindy, by the way, sometimes you go to GNCC, there's not great cell service.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Mindy was able to get a radar up. And she calmly looks at Jason and I and says, that might hit us. We should probably start heading back. So we start heading back. Now you're in a woods section.
Well, we were in the open, and then we went into the woods.
Yes.
And we were good. Everything was fine. It was cooling off. Like, you could tell rain was coming.
And then it looked like LED lights shine through the pine trees. And we're like, all right, maybe we're in the middle of a pine forest. And I'm like, do the roots go down or do they spread out? Like, I don't want to touch the tree. I don't know where to go. And the whole point of that was, my house is 60 feet long.
Yeah.
That mud section was probably the widest section of racing that I have ever seen in my entire life.
It was a solid 100, 120 wide.
Yeah. And
but you can't go over 25 feet.
Oh no, they had it marked.
It was.
Oh, they went out there.
It was a free for all. It was pretty much because it was bike wide, doorway wide coming into it, and then it just opened up. Everybody knew, like, it opened and it funneled back down until,
Let's put it this way, guys were making lines around, and then all of a sudden I looked and I'm like, Jason, would it be possible to just go a certain, and then just cut across all the ruts? And all of a sudden guys started going in, they'd fan out, and then they'd look for a spot like, where do I turn? Where do I turn? Where do I turn? and then they'd fall into the mud hole. But what you guys couldn't do, there were guys up on the fence. There was a path.
Oh yeah,
This
once they
wide.
came in, yeah.
Once they came into the second mud area, there was a path. People were standing at the fence, and these guys would jump up on this little path, ride it, jump off, and there were people. That's the cool thing about GNCC, the mud fleece.
Yeah.
There are people out there covered. They're the same color as these microphones, and they're out there pointing lines. There were girls with little sticks with things on them pointing lines. There were people picking up bikes. You couldn't tell who was who, and they're just cheering. And people, you hear somebody just rev it out. All you could smell was clutch and radiator.
Yep.
And they're going. And it was that way. That whole section, that last quarter to half mile, was just a zoo. So Jason, we decided we didn't want to get wet. So we went and got in the truck.
It was a smart choice.
Yes. And the bottom dropped out. And we're like, okay, with the lightning, they're gonna stop it.
Yeah.
The leaders had just come through. Stu was still leading. He and Johnny basically had separated themselves from everybody. So we're like, okay. Well, all of a sudden we get a report. Jason finally finds it because of Mindy's phone, which is crazy. They have the same service, Michelle and I. But only one of us could get our phones to work. Johnny got the lead. And Johnny starts stretching it out. And that's where we'll get into the results because it was pretty crazy that something must have happened to Stu because Johnny just kept inching away.
Yeah.
They did, what did they do? How many laps?
6.
6 laps. And they did not stop the race. So not only was there a sand section and the mud and the wet dirt, then all of a sudden the bottom dropped out. So all those mud, all the ruts that they had figured out, they don't know where those ruts are anymore. They all filled up with water.
Yeah.
So you're now guessing. And I can imagine what that looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Like Okeechobee. Point, aim, shoot, and hope for the best.
So what did you
sounds
take?
Like this was a good race to not do on the dirt bike because we all know I don't like ruts very.
Well, your race would have been fine. Your 10 o'clock race in the morning?
Yeah,
it was beautiful.
Yeah, they were status quo.
Yeah.
I mean, it was muddy, but it wasn't abnormal.
No, the lines actually they were creating. Once they got them down to a certain point, we watched. There was a hole probably as high as this table. We came back to view that same spot. There was so much water and like wet dirt. That hole, guys were flying through. It was not there anymore. It was like that rut had disappeared completely. It filled itself in. But yeah, in the afternoon race, what did you take away from watching those guys?
Well, I mean, Johnny and Stu basically put an ass whipping on all of them. I mean, is what it boils down to.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, they walked away from them.
What was their separation?
Well, I mean, at the end, it was, let's see, like at the end, it was about 2.5 minutes, which obviously I would say something happened to Stu. He crashed or whatever. And that's how Johnny got away from him because for 2 solid hours, they were nose to tail.
Yeah, they were basically the Collier and Frazier battle. They were one would lead, the other one would lead, and they were just going. And they separated themselves early, and it was over.
Yeah.
But the guy of the race,
which one? Because there's 2 of them that like really stood out.
the first guy of the race, XC2 guy, finishes second overall, and he smoked everybody.
Yep. Yeah, because second was so just say 4 minutes.
Yeah. Angus Riordan was second, but yeah, Grant Davis, he was running top 5. We're like, okay, you know what happens? It always happens.
Yeah.
The XC1 guys kind of fill in the spot. No, he wasn't going backwards. He kept climbing forward in it.
Yeah.
But maybe the best surprise of the race was, go hit us with this one.
It was I can't say his name. You know,
Nicholas DeFeo.
There you go. Thank you. He was 3:21, and second was 3:27. So 6 minutes, 2:58.
2:58 finishes in the 10th position overall.
Yeah.
That's like we were talking about the XC2 guy that kind of, this was that. It's a 258 guy. He rides for Stu, and he put a whooping on those boys.
Yeah.
And we're kind of wondering, like, do you stay in 250A all year, or do you kind of
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which I mean,
You know
I don't.
how they are. Championship.
I don't know what he did at the first one either. I'll look that up.
I don't think he won. I'm pretty sure JoJo Cunningham took
JoJo was
250A.
JoJo was. I don't think he finished. I want to say he did like 4 laps.
We want to give Tyler Medaglia, the Canadian.
Finished third.
He finished third in XC2. Comes and makes his annual trip down to Florida.
Yeah.
He's a pro motocross champion up in Canada. You want to try to say his name? Where he's from?
Which one?
Oh, it just says Canada.
Yeah.
He made it easy on you. It just says Canada. He's
Canada.
from all over Canada, but he's a motocross legend up in Canada. Came down, runs the race, finishes third in XC2. Yeah. But Jesse, congratulations, man! You finally got yourself a good, positive finish at your home race in Florida.
Started 4th, finished 4th.
Yep. And he kind of waffled back a little bit. He lost the toe. That's one of the ones we were talking about, the toe. The first 3 guys kind of.
He was more in the third group, initially.
And, through attrition and different things and just plugging away. He didn't look bad, though. He looked good. No. He actually looks kind of big on the bike. Like, he's not a big guy.
Yeah.
But he looked, I don't know if it's the underprotector or whatever, but he looked, I didn't even recognize him at first because he looked biggish on the bike, and he's riding it well. I know that I was giving him crap about switching from the 450 to the 250. Jason and I talked about that a little bit, about keeping him safe. But this is one of his best results from his XC3 championships.
Yeah.
And we had him on the podcast. MJ reached out to him today to wish him congratulations because we'd love to get him back. We talked about getting a mid-year report, and hopefully there were some positives. Well, the first 2 races, he's finished 8th and 4th. Yeah. So to me, that's pretty positive.
Yeah, he's improved. Yeah. His season's starting off better than it has the last 2 years.
I know his first laps, he admitted on the podcast that his first laps are kind of rough, and you could see he was 4th to start. He had dropped back to 6th or 7th, I think is what we were getting him at. But he's got a great group of, we saw a couple FTR people, his family, out doing the spotting for him, because you cannot do this at this level without having people out kind of timing and watching. And Jason and I were talking about that. For you, we'll go to you. For a guy that's the amateur, do you have people out in the woods, or do you just have, I mean, you had me this weekend, but are there other people out that help spot to give information back to home base, or do you just kind of have to do it on your own?
No, I just kind of do it on my own. I mean, there are some days where I wish there'd be somebody out there, but at the same time, doing it at this level, I mean, it's really not, I don't think you really need it at my level. You come in and you get to see the scoring thing when you come through.
Can you read it? I never can read the damn thing.
Maybe you need to get those prescription lens goggles.
No, I just miss it. Like, I'm like, is that me or the guy behind me?
Well, at FTR, it depends on how they have it turned. Because half the time they'll have it turned into the sun.
I hate FTR.
So it whites it out so you can't see it.
That's what's nice about the GNCC. It's number one, it's under a tent, and then number 2, they got the stuff around it so that it the sun can't
so you can read the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can half the time. Once I learn what numbers, like, okay, that's
what means what.
Yeah.
But no, for him, it's cool that he's got this little program that could. He's a good kid. He's a local Florida guy.
He's sitting 3rd in points right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's huge, and he's good at some of these southern tracks that we're going to start. And I think if you're at a GNCC and you're looking for a privateer guy to follow or help, look them up. They love having the assistants and someone out in the woods to.
And last year at Georgia, he was running 2nd or 3rd for the first couple laps before I think he got taken out by a mechanical. So, and in the same conditions it looks like we're about to have this weekend in the mud. So
at least it wasn't a deer or something.
The good thing is he's not on the KTM anymore.
Yeah,
because that was the problem last year with a lot of the guys. Is the issues were actually manufacturer defects.
Yeah, both of you do a little more. do a lot of this by flying by the seat of the pants and asking you guys questions. I know you're a quad guy, but you read a lot, and you're just a technical guru. So, the Kawasaki platform, is it just that good now? Because there's a lot of guys on Kawasaki's. Have you seen anything? Have you heard anything?
I mean, I'm not allowed to ride a Kawasaki, so I don't really look into them.
The only
But
thing I know
it's
is
kind of like,
contingency, really.
yeah,
I
I
would
mean,
assume.
like I told you, if Stu would have won, I mean, that's $10,000.
It's not a bad payout.
No.
So I mean, that's part of it. Like if you're going to run a national series and you're a top rider, and you can make a good amount of money, you're going to try to go with who's going to pay you the most. So I mean, that's probably part of it, and I think their bikes have gotten better. Because if you remember, like, what was it? 08, 9, 10, somewhere in there. Like you had Jonathan Bell, Mose Howard, everybody in AA and top A riders in FTR, they were all on Kawasaki's.
Yeah.
But at that point, their bike was the top bike, and they were paying the most money. Well, I think the cycles circle back around.
How far down until you see a Suzuki rider?
You don't.
Like at least you kind of see them in the motocross scene, but I mean, I do not see them at GNCC. Like
I saw there was one in the morning race. I do know that. In the afternoon race, I don't know that there was. The 258 dude, he finished second at round 1.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And here's the next question.
Stand by. We're still looking.
Let's say second round 1.
Yeah.
Overall.
No.
Oh,
No,
second.
Second 258.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, Roxon wins Supercross Championship or Pro Motocross Championship. Obviously far-fetched, but let's say it happens. Does that make Suzuki want to do more R&D, or do they look at it like, oh, well, he won on this platform, so obviously it's working. We don't need to do any more R&D on it.
Exactly.
That's funny. We actually talked about this yesterday. We're of the opinion if with Ducati was there yesterday.
Yeah, they were.
Ducati was there yesterday. 2 guys walking around in Ducati Corsa shirts being interviewed.
Yeah.
And
they expressed interest in doing it.
So here's the problem. Ducati comes in, Triumph comes in.
I would assume Triumph would come in at some point.
Well, I mean, they're going to build a 450. Beta is already here.
Yeah.
But they're
Sherco is already here.
Sherco. So imagine Suzuki in the motocross world says, okay, well, if Ducati and Beta are coming in and Triumph, well, where does that leave us? That's a lot of money to spend to not even know. It's happening in MotoGP right now. Yamaha was a world champion not that long ago, and they can't even compete now with Ducati and KTM and Aprilia. And there is contemplation. Suzuki already bailed on MotoGP. They won the world championship and then left. There is contemplation happening in MotoGP that Yamaha could be like, it's not worth it.
Yeah,
we're out.
Yeah.
So there's no Kawasaki team. I mean, so
yeah,
they could look at this and go, you know what? There's enough bikes now. I mean, we were talking in the Pro Supercross in a couple years, I think 2025, because Ducati may come in by 2025. There will be 18 to 20 factory riders. Where do the privateers go in 450?
Yeah.
It's nice because you get more factory rides, but it also sucks at the same time.
It's gonna knock some people. It's gonna knock some people
out.
But
you know what's funny though, in like GNCC, if you go back to early to mid 2000s,
when Josh Strang won championship.
Well, that too. When there was multiple teams with multiple rides, you had 5 to 6 guys on the team. GNCC, as far as factory rides, was thriving, and you had really good turnouts.
Yeah.
But you take the same principle and you put it in Supercross and you kill it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
it's
XC1 you can have as many people as you want.
Yeah.
At Supercross you get 22 people on the gate. And That's it.
That's it. Yeah, and I will tell you, that's the biggest thing to me is looking at the points payout. Jesse gets paid, and he gets points. So because it's top 20. right? It's top 20 for GNCC.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I believe it's either top 20 or top 15.
Yeah, I think it's top 20. I think we were looking, trying to look at it last night on the way home.
But I mean, you can never on the motocross and supercross side, you can kill privateers. On the cross country side, I mean, you don't need a factory program to be halfway decent at cross country racing. You need a good suspension setup, and you just need to dial in your setup. I mean, you don't need the fastest motor in the world to race XC. Like, you don't need a factory program to race.
I don't think you need a factory program in SX either.
No?
I think they've turned it into that conception that you have to have all this stuff, but you really don't. Because, like, when they do the amateur supercross stuff, so my comparison is a kid goes out there on a 65. Now, a top kid on a 65 jumps the same triple that they're jumping on a 250F and a 450F.
Yeah.
He's on a 65. He's got what? 20 horsepower? Why do you need 60 to do the same thing?
Yeah. No, that's a valid point.
I mean, you don't. It's to me, it's. I would like to see all the top guys take them, and of course they can have their suspension because that's a legit thing.
Yeah.
But everything stock motor, you can have exhaust because that's.
God, after watching Tomac throw that bike into the face of the wall, I thought he was going to push the bike through the wall. God, he was going to rest it that way. I don't want him on a stock suspension.
No, they can have suspension, but just a stock
motor
platform,
build, yeah,
and let them and race them and see what
almost
happens.
like a NASCAR type setup, you know.
And I mean, they have the top equipment. They get paid to race. They get paid to train. This guy over here is working or barely getting by. So when he goes to the race, he's not 100%. So of course he's going to get beat and he can't perform. I mean, it's
two quick things. We talked about him last time. Cody Barnes, he's struggling to start the season.
Yeah, he wasn't doing good yesterday.
No, he struggled. But look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Alex Luger.
Yeah, he got fourth in A Open.
That's not bad.
No, which that's about where
top 30.
Yeah, that's about where he was before he broke his back a year and a half, 2 years ago, whatever it was, and then came back and that's when he went to work for Stu, if I'm not mistaken.
Do you have the AM results?
Yeah, I was going to touch on those just a bit.
Look at Sean Clark.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Not too shabby.
Sean Clark.
I mean, he's got beat by 7 minutes, but being beat by Caleb Russell by 7 minutes.
Well, you know he holds a pro license, right?
Oh, yeah. But I'm saying being beat by Caleb Russell by seven minutes isn't too shabby.
But I'm going to say this. The women were putting on a show yesterday.
Yeah, they were moving.
The women were back. I mean, I know that the women are the show. They don't even talk about the sportsman class, which is cool. I'm glad they're out there, but there were some good names. But the women were putting on a show yesterday. Mm-hmm. And congratulations to Brandy Richards for getting her win. She's also one of the Western.
This is her first win.
Yeah. And that's awesome. Corey Steed. They said Guttish yesterday. I thought it was Goodish. They said Guttish. They introduced her as Rachel Guttish.
Goodish.
Yeah.
Same difference.
Mikey Waynes pronounces my name Yaudanis on the start. Sometimes it's Yaudanis, sometimes it's Yondis. I mean, it just depends on how he's feeling that morning. So,
But no, it's cool to see Caleb out there, and boy, it is amazing. I know he's retired, but skill is skill.
Yeah.
We were watching him through the mud at the end of the race. There are guys trying, and there were good riders out there struggling. He came through. I don't think he ever sat down. I think he just it was like that's
like sick. Art in motion.
Yeah,
like
it's like silly. And he almost looked somewhat clean. He was dirty, but you could still see his clothes, and it was like that's embarrassing. Like that's sick. But no, I want to say congratulations to him, and I think his little boy.
Yeah, he
was in the AM race. Had a top. He didn't win, but he had a top placing.
He was on the podium. Or
yeah.
Whatever. Now, Dad Duvall's little boy did win his class. He won the first round and he won this.
So any of you parents who have little kids, just realize that Caleb Russell's son and Thad Duvall's son are coming up, and there must be something there because they're both pretty good.
Yeah.
They're both pretty good. So it just keeps going. It just keeps going. But overall, it poured down rain. We had a great time. I think Mindy has decided she'd like to go to a Supercross because it seems to be maybe cleaner.
Not even that. It's just not as much walking.
But I think they had fun. Track was cool. They did a good job. Jason and I walked around a little bit. I didn't. For you, we kind of stayed out and watched. But since I didn't have anybody I had to pay attention to, we kind of walked around. And we're of the opinion that GNCC could go there. They could not touch any of the same trails except maybe some of the tie-in areas and that PowerPoint section because that's just cool.
Yeah.
And they could run a completely different track for the next 5-10 years because there are so
but
many
they still
trails.
choose to run the same track every year.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, it's
they
easier.
They can cut in. Well, there's already trails. They could literally tie those in, and they could have a variety of tracks over and over again because we were just walking around. I'm like, oh, there's a trail. Oh, there's a trail. Oh, there's a trail.
I mean, it is called. I think there's a sign. It's like what the
1,000-acre trail,
1,000-acre forest or something.
But overall, I mean, we've got papers everywhere. We have a B under one.
Rachel
I forgot
Archer,
about
she
the B.
crashed. That's why she ended up where she did.
Okay, yeah.
And Josh Toth, he made a nice little post about apparently an XC1 rider T-boned him and destroyed his bike, and that's why he was no longer in the race.
Okay.
So he did.
Did you see why can't I think of his name? Craig DeLong's bike catch on fire?
No.
Yeah, his I'll see if I can find a photo of it real quick. His bike caught on fire and melted up. But also there was a little incident last race between two XC1 riders. I might be able to find that video as well.
Tell. Is the Chase Landers, is he part of the no, because he's from
Chase Landers is part of the Landers racing team. His dad owns it.
So Landers is not inside. I thought Landers was named off of a city. It's the last name. So it's a family.
They're out of Tennessee. That's actually the property we're going to in Tennessee this year is owned by them.
Okay.
Which supposedly, I heard Big John was talking this weekend that they don't even know how they're going to make a track for that Tennessee round because it is so rocky and hilly that they can't figure out where they're going to lay out trail at. I'm
Just
like,
put ribbon down and let him
that
go.
sounds fun, like almost like a hard enduro. But his this is the only photo I've seen of it all weekend. But that's
we saw a couple bikes by the way.
but
I don't know what people were hitting out there. We saw a KTM that had a bent subframe and the pipe was at about a 45-degree angle. The pipe was still on, but then we had a dude come by on a 125 who had no silencer. It was gone.
The one, the really loud one.
Yeah.
He's from Florida. Somebody posted on GNCC's website. I guess he did a couple laps and then I guess he crashed really bad and they were trying to find the people that actually brought him. He rode back, but he doesn't know where he was or how he even got back. So people escorted him back in and just dropped him off. And they were just trying to find the people that helped him because he has no clue.
So he took a dinger to lose the pipe and then took another dinger.
Yeah.
Oh.
yeah. That sounds like my Indiana crash.
But yeah, it was his bike sounded like
It was loud. He was moving.
Yeah, he was moving.
It was loud.
But it was screaming.
Don't you need the silencer on a two-stroke to get power, or is that more?
Yeah, I mean you're losing.
I think
the way
he just
it is.
squeezed the throttle a little harder.
He just stayed on it and kept moving.
Best name of this race, we did one last time. Little Egg Harbor, New Jersey.
That's a long way from home.
But Little Egg Harbor, that's because we had we had one last
Wasn't
time.
it? Hold on. Wasn't it in the quad race? It was like Kings.
I don't know. It was. I thought it was a woman's class name.
That's an interesting.
Where did it catch? Is the pipe?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure. Because normally with four strokes, whenever you see them burned up, it's because the fuel line got ripped off or something.
Yeah,
That's where
it's leaking fuel on a hot engine.
But this is.
It burned the back. It burned the middle. But everything seems to be intact with no burn marks other than the melted plastic. So it's kind of like
it's almost like maybe something got stuck in there, like packed in there, and it
just
heated up without seeing the whole.
This is the only picture I've seen of it all weekend.
I would say either that or it was electrical, and the battery and all that in there tried to light off. Something to that effect.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see.
Because that's what happened to Stu when he was on Sherrico. At Florida, the battery let go and it caught on fire.
Oh, and real quick, speaking of Sherco, Strang was struggling early in the race. He was back in ninth at some point, I think, and he just kept plodding away, doing basically the veteran stuff, and just to finish fifth. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good
He
ride.
just stayed with it and just cruised.
But no, overall, it was really impressive. I think first 2 rounds have shown that there is a little bit of a pecking order. We'll see what happens this weekend, but so far in 2 different types of terrain, Gerard has proven that he's capable of winning.
In this race, he came from dead last start
Yes.
to win.
Yes. Yeah, we actually commented on that. Watch how much work goes into guys looking at the start. You have 3 hours.
Yeah.
And it was proven you can start dead last.
It's 356.
356?
Mm-hmm.
And XC1.
Yeah.
What was that?
There's a 369. Numbers here.
There's a 336, which is Ryder Lafferty.
So, who did you say got T-bone?
Josh Toth.
Oh, okay. So this was last race in the woods.
I think that's Bollinger.
Oh. They obviously came contacting somebody's upset with somebody, but that number was 356. So the KTM was 356. The other one was Bollinger.
No, that was Johnny Gerard on the KTM.
960.
969.
969.
Yeah.
Well, what the heck?
So is he chasing?
Oh.
No, it says 3.
Yeah, that's 356. Well,
Was that the 10 a.m. race?
No, that was the PM race. But wasn't there somebody filling in for Ben Kelly? Dante
Oliver.
Is that him?
He didn't race this race.
No, he wasn't there.
So I wonder if that was
Him.
and he was.
Maybe they decided he was enough.
Maybe that's why I didn't race this race.
Yeah, that's who. Yeah.
Dante.
Yeah.
So you're getting ready.
My paperclip chippings.
You're getting ready for the general. It's
Yes.
a traditional event. Iona Pass. It's back open. They're going there. Are you ready? Do you feel like you're ready? Do you feel like that was a better ride? Obviously, you got to ride. Do you feel like you're 1 race behind, but do you feel like you're ready to go?
Yeah, I think so. We're gonna make some more adjustments to the bike as the year goes on. I have a couple different suspension settings. We're gonna play around with and test between dual rate and triple rate shock setups, and of course valving and clicker adjustments. But that's really the last piece of the puzzle I'm really searching for right now is suspension setups. Other than that, the bike is really dialed. I can't give a big enough shout out to James and Santo. They got that bike finished at 9:30 Thursday night and loaded up and drove through the night to come be there on Friday for the GNCC. Just swapping that entire wiring harness. It had to come out of Canada, and it got there at 10 o'clock Thursday morning. And so they had the bike all torn down. And
do you get a free bottle of syrup with that? Like,
dude, I mean,
like something from something. I mean,
hopefully it came with some candy or a sticker or something, But
you must be hard to set up for though, because you're not the typical size of a utility. How do they even valve you? Because like you're not
moving the forward.
Yeah.
You're not compressing it with body.
yeah, when I stand on, when I get on it, I don't compress it.
So how do they set it up for you? Because you're really probably difficult to set it up for.
I know I have some valving in my shocks that only a select few have, and I have no clue what those valve stacks consist of. I just know that they work.
The same stacks they're using in the women's 450s.
I guess so.
I'm not making fun of you.
It's working good.
I'm not making fun of you. It's like, but how do you put like most of the guys are 160 to 170 pounds on those. Some of them over 2.
I'm like 140 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah.
So, but I know I have good valve stacks in there, but I know we're going to make some changes as I have gotten faster since we put those stacks in there. So this was the first race that I was able to test out this new bike and the new setups we have on it. So in the meantime, we're going to stiffen up clickers for the race this weekend in Georgia just to see how that goes. I know that we're going to toy around with some other stuff, but I think coming soon we're going to start messing around with. I got a set of triple rates here at the shop, or I say at the shop, at the house down here in Florida on the Florida bike that we're going to test out at FTR and around the house. And I'm working on it, Jason. I'm working on getting me a silencer for my exhaust so I can ride, maybe when I get home from work. So
do they, for you though, like testing here, the next rounds from this point forward, you're going clay, rock, even the South Carolina sand's not the same as the Florida sand, having that we've ridden on it. Do you need to go up there for a test to see, or is it basically if it feels good in Georgia, it's going to feel good in Indiana?
In theory, yes, you should. But kind of what you just said, like I know some of the pro XC1 guys. Hunter, I was talking to Hunter one time, and he says his Florida setup is the exact same as his northern setup.
Really?
He only changes 1 or 2 clickers, and but the valve stacks, everything is the exact same as any other
So
setup.
they're just
he runs
speeding
up north.
up. They're just speeding up.
They're
and slowing
they're
down.
stiffening.
Yeah.
software.
So, I found that, I can test down here in Florida and go up north, and it's generally going to translate. And if it doesn't, then okay, I'll race with it this race, but next race we'll either soften it up or stiffen it up, whatever we need to do.
I was just curious because it's such a different thing, but you guys are going so much faster, so you're stiffening up everything anyway. I mean, I know that they're racing in the sand here, but like Johnny Gerard's not running a soft setup
Yeah.
because of the speed compared to what I would be running.
Yeah.
His setup's stiffer.
His setup for cross country would be your setup if you went to go race Supercross.
Yeah.
Thank you. I deserve that. Well played. Would you like to pile on as well?
No.
Oh, okay. You're gonna give him props for that one.
No.
But that's what it is. I mean, honestly, I know the really the only changes would be, I know talking to James at DeRisi, we want to stiffen it up for this weekend, not only because I've gotten faster since we originally set this setup up. Like I was talking to somebody this weekend, before I started running into the issues I ran into, I was running with people this weekend who typically were pulling me by minutes in the previous class. So I was telling them, I was like, making jokes. I have no clue where the speed came from this off season, but obviously it's there now. So we're stiffening it up in general, but also with it being the mud race, we're going to stiffen it up just a little bit extra due to just the clay up in Georgia is real tacky and it likes to stick to everything.
And you get these V outs down there too.
Yeah.
The valleys.
Yeah, so we're going to stiffen it up so that it'll hopefully, it might be a little too stiff, starting the first half a lap, maybe the lap, but once that extra weight gets onto the quad due to all the mud being able to cake in there, it should end up, evening out and working good for the rest of the race.
Well, any last comments for you?
Well, he did make the comment about Stu being bigger and eating.
Yeah.
There is validity to that. If you are not fat, but you're a bigger stature rider,
Yeah.
you can manhandle the bike longer.
I feel like
say,
there's probably a
smaller-
perfect size for it, and I'm sure it all varies by body type and.
Yeah. I mean, he's just a corn-fed country boy. He's just big.
Yeah, he's a big boy, but he and Ricky Russell, they eat the same thing. According to Ricky Russell, they eat the same thing for dinner before a race, where a lot of guys won't touch a steak.
Mm-hmm.
They eat the steak and pasta because they both feel that it gives them an extra reserve towards the end of a race.
Yeah.
That's according to an interview I listened to with Ricky Russell. That's why they do that, is they want the protein in a steak is harder to digest, but that lasting effect of that steak in their and really in the grand scheme of things, it's what they feel works for them.
Yeah.
And if they feel confident it works for them, then it works for them.
Yeah.
So,
but also, I mean, I heard Stu say on a podcast that whether this is true or he's just being Stu, that there was one race where he didn't drink a beer Saturday night or a couple beers Saturday night, and he sucked. So ever since then, he's always drank at least 2 to 3 beers the Saturday night before the race, and he does good.
That's honestly probably a true statement.
Because he said the Big Buck 2022 before he broke his neck and everything, he was like, oh, okay, I'm going to start this year out right. I'm not going to drink a beer before this race. So I didn't drink a beer that weekend, went out and crashed. So he's like, ever since then.
No,
now, whether that's true or not, I don't know.
Honestly, that's probably a true statement. And that's his habits are why he was never the poster boy for KTM.
Yeah.
Because he is a normal person. They don't want a normal person. They want somebody they can program that's prim and proper and all that.
It's like Josh Strang speaking out, I think it was last year, about why he was running the number 17 because it was his overall number. And when he rode for like the Austrian brands, they make you pick a 3-digit number. You're not allowed to run your overall number, and it's real straight and narrow. But also the drinking the beer thing. If you're drinking a beer every night, that's just your routine. You come home after training, you drink a beer.
Yeah.
Well, the worst thing you can do is switch that up before the race because your body's used to it. So when you're not getting that, like if you eat crap for your entire, let's say a month leading up to the race, the worst thing you can do is eat healthy the week of the race because your body is so. I'm not going to say it's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, it's going to throw everything off.
It's going to throw everything off because your body's like, well, why am I eating healthy? Like, how do I process all this stuff?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But that's all I have.
I'm guessing we're going to have to reconvene next week because, well, we have another GNCC right back to back.
Yeah.
So, but I was trying to talk to Michelle because we're going to Birmingham for the Supercross, and it's literally a 4-hour trip across. I was trying to talk to Michelle and cover so we could cover the GNCC, but we have this marathon thing that we're trying to train for, so she talked me out of it. So,
and how long is the marathon?
The marathon is 26.2 miles.
How long does it take to run?
About 5 hours, 5 and a half.
Will you drive across?
I'm not running alone while you drive.
You just pick her up with you there.
So MJ, you're going to be our eyes and ears on Saturday, and I guess we'll have to follow along on social media and the platform on Sunday, and we'll reconvene and talk. And if there's any hot takes, we are not afraid to. We're not going to stir the pot, but if there's any hot takes that we hear or anything like that,
I'll stir it.
I'll stir it too. You might not stir it,
but you know what I mean. We're not going to make allegations. We're going to look at the stuff and the data and that kind of stuff and look at it. But like, as we finish up, congratulations to Jesse. You're running your own program. You and your girlfriend are kind of doing it on your own. You've got great support, but kudos to you for finishing 4th. We're proud of you and we're happy for you. And man, it's not going to get any easier going to Georgia in the mud, but good luck and keep having fun, man. You see him at the races and he's out riding his bike. He's got a smile on his face, and that's
what it's all about.
Kind of cool and enjoy. And Johnny Gerard, congratulations, 2 in a row. That's tough. Bryson Neal, congratulations, 2 in a row. The champions are being champions, and the want-to-be champions are starting off on the right foot. So, and the guy who was champion burned his bike to the ground.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see actually what's a better picture of that to actually see what it is.
Yeah,
it's a factory Husqvarna. We won't see any.
There was
pictures, I'm guessing.
Somebody commented on that photo. Somebody commented on that photo and said that it happened after a crash. That doesn't really give too much information, but
unless something was damaged. I mean, like I said, without seeing the rest of the bike, it's
to
kind
see
of
the
hard
burn.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that picture was taken very sneakily, and that bike got towed out of the track with a tarp on top of it.
No, I never saw it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it got towed in from the back way. Nobody ever saw it until right then.
Well, guys, it was 3 deep. We were 3 wide, and that was MJ. That's Jason. I'm Trey. This was episode 45 and a half of the Beyond the Curve, the MX podcast. Goes off-road, off-track, off target and everywhere else, but we have a good time doing it. We'll see you next week because, well, there's another GNCC. Talk to y'all soon.
All right.
Bye-bye. I feel like you're going to have to do like 3 weeks in a row because there's the FTR race after that.
Yeah. I think my dad might race that.
Oh, hell. We're going to have that full report.
I think he was supposed to race this weekend until he found out it was a mud race. And
Lord,
he's like, I'm going to be a fair weather racer. I'm not racing in that. Because you know what I'd do? I'd make him clean it.
Oh. Poor guy. I feel bad. Like
He's like, freedom. No.
he was gonna die anyway since he's in here, but I feel bad like killing him. You gonna stick him in there?
Well, I was gonna say if I can just put him on a piece of paper, we'll
Toss him outside.
Yeah.
Pick him up.
Now he might have got crushed by then.
Oh, he's still.
No, he's still cute.
We can get him out the door. Come on, get on there.
I like how this is all still being filmed too.
We should post the whole thing.
We should. You hear that, Michelle? You gotta post our bee endeavors.
All right, good job, guys. Thank you. That was actually fun. I laughed way more in that podcast than the other.